Series on resistance training, and we talked about some of the essential movements for resistance training. And this week we're going to get into our first movement, which is the squat. And I think a lot of people might hear the word squat or think about squatting and they picture a buff bodybuilder with a gigantic heavy bar on their back and squatting down and standing up. And while that's certainly one variation of a squat, the squat movement pattern in itself, because a lot of things we're talking about is a movement pattern, meaning there are a number of exercises that can satisfy that movement pattern. So that squat movement pattern has a wide number of exercises that you can use, and not just your traditional barbell back squat. So if that's something that's intimidating to you, don't worry, that's not necessary. So why do we want to squat? Because I think squatting is probably, I don't know, one of the most natural movements that we can do. If we think about little kids, they squat just when they play, right? They're just going to get down and squat, and they're going to sit there and they're going to play with whatever they're playing with, and they do it perfectly. They do it without thinking. It just happens naturally. No one has to teach them how to squat. They just naturally do it, right? It's instinctive to us. But we lose that capability for a variety of reasons, mostly because we probably don't do it that much. But then we put ourselves in positions like I'm sitting in right now, where we don't have to use a lot of the muscles that are required to squat, and so we lose some of that functionality. It's natural, it happens to everyone. But we want to be able to squat because we want to be able to get up and down from a chair. We want to be able to get on and off a toilet. We want to be able to squat down, and when our kids come running at us or our grandkids come running at us, catch them and stand up, right? Like, they're just fundamental movements that you want to be able to do in your life, like to live a normal, happy life. So squatting is important, and it's definitely one of the most important movements when it comes to resistance training, because it does work so many muscles. So you might just think, oh, well, it's probably just working my legs and maybe my glutes or your butt. And that's true, but in order to squat properly, you really have to have strong ankles and strong knees and strong legs and strong calves and strong core. And even depending on where you're holding the weight, a strong upper body as well. So it's one of those total body movements that is just quite essential for life. And so we should be practicing it. So, but like I said, it doesn't mean that we have to do a barbell back squat, which is like what most people think of when they think about squatting as far as an exercise point of view. So what can we do for squats? Well, this is a squat. Standing up and sitting down. All right. This here is one of my squatting, standing up and sitting down on top of a box or a bench or something like that is like the most basic thing you could possibly do, right? This is what you're going to do when you're getting up and down out of a chair, right? If this is hard for you, which for some people it may be, that's okay, right? I like using the box for a lot of clients when they're first starting out, because it gives them a target to sit on, right? A lot of people, as the lower they go or they get uncertain about, where they stop and stuff like that, things start to go wrong. Like, we'll see lots of funky things start to happen. So by using the box, it gives them something to sit on. It's less scary, and it really promotes that pattern of just getting up and standing down, right? So this can be easy this can be challenging to do just with your body weight, or if you need to add some weight, right, we can add some weight. Right? So one of the first kind of weighted movements you might do is a weighted goblet squat to a box, right? So very simple like this. Just sit down, stand up. And when you're doing something like that, you want to keep in mind that, like, when you get down to the box, it's not just like your body just like falls apart. It's super relaxed. You want to keep it nice and tense and keep that core tight and that back straight and the legs tense, right? You just don't sit down and relax, but like sit down, hit the box, and stand back up with a lot of tension in your body, right? Engage the muscles as you're doing it, right? So That's probably one of the first things that I can, as a squatting movement that I would suggest you do. If that's where you're at, that's where you're at. Eventually you can work to not using the box, right? So if you don't want to use the box, right? So let's see if I can move this out of the way. Just don't do it anymore. All right. What about just doing a regular body weight squat, right? So I was talking about the way kids play before, right? What do? They sit down like this, they get all the way down, and they sit there and they play with whatever's in front of them, or they sit there with their hands, right, or whatever, right? My son does this, my daughter does this. You'll see infants, when they're just first starting out to walk, right? They get down like this, their ass is almost touching the ground, sorry for my foul language, but their butt's almost touching the ground, and they sit there and play, and they'll do that for several minutes at a time, right? A lot of you probably can't get to the spot, right? But again, we have to start where you can start, right? So if the box becomes easy enough, you can get past that box. What about starting to messing with squatting with your body weight, right? And I'm not saying you have to get down as low as I am right now, right? But if you can do just, even if you come down here, right? Legs maybe 75 degrees, right? Come back up. Down here, come back up, right? And you can work to progress it. Can you go to legs at 90 degrees? Come back up, right? Legs at 90 degrees, come back up, right? And then eventually you want to try with good form, right? And hopefully you can do this. Good form, get down as low as you can go, right? And then come back up with body weight. Now I can do that with my body weight, but I can't do that with a lot of weight. So again, you can progress this a little bit easier as your body weight squats get a little bit harder or easier. You can add some weight, right? So then you can do the same goblet squat that we were just talking about doing on a box. We can do that without the box, right? So we no longer have the box there for us, but you want to hold the weight up in front of you, probably just below your chin, close to your body. Don't hold it out, that's going to make it harder. Hold it close to your body, right underneath your chin, and you're just going to squat down and then come back up, right? And like I said, I can do that with light weight for me anyways, right? And that's pretty easy, right? But that's another progression that you can have. Now, the next spot that I like to take people to, and you can do that goblet squat with a kettlebell, right? It doesn't have to be a dumbbell. It could be a kettlebell. I didn't bring a kettlebell over here to use, but you can do it with a kettlebell. If you have kettlebells, you can do it with a dumbbell. You can do it with a band, right? So you can take a band. Should have brought a band over with me. I don't have a band, but if you put a band up in your arms like this, squat down, squat back up, right? You can do it with a band. And everything I'm talking about, you can go on YouTube and look these things up, and you'll see all kinds of different videos of people doing it. So if I don't not able to reproduce it, you can always find videos of other people doing it. The other kind of squat movement that I like to take people through, especially in the beginning, is what's called a split squat, right? So I should have two weights, but you can do this with a single weight as well, right? We'll do a goblet style too. You could do two. You could do weights in both hands if you wanted to, or you could do the goblet style split squat, right? Where one leg's in front of the other one, the other one's back, it's up, right? The other foot's up. And you just go down, come back up, right? And obviously there's more pressure when you're doing this variation on that front knee, on that front leg. So you're gonna wanna replicate that by switching legs and come back up. So whatever leg's forward, that's the one that's really working hard. So you're gonna wanna switch legs partway through, right? That's another variation of the squat pattern, right? It's a little bit different, a little bit more challenging in that you have to kind of have some balance here. Now there's other foot's in the back, so you do have some stability here, but it still requires some balance to put all that weight on that front foot. Issue there is if you tend to have problems with your knees, it might not be so comfortable with all that weight on that front knee. So keep that in mind as well. Now there's other Squatting variations, like I said, we can use a barbell. You can do a barbell back squat or a barbell front squat. I really like front squats for people. Generally, people squat a lot better with the weight in front of them because when they put weight on their back, they tend to collapse forward. So their body will look more like this, right? And so it's not the best thing to do. But when you put the weight in front of them, it's kind of a cue to keep their body upright, their torso upright, so they stay more upright when they squat back down, which is good, right? So anything with the weight in front of you, like a front squat, barbell front squat, would be good. You can look that up on YouTube as well. The issue there is that some people have wrist and shoulder mobility issues and they can't bend their wrist back. There's other ways to do it where you cross your arms and stuff like that. I'll put some videos to a front squat that I've done. I have a front squat video that I have in the newsletter here in the description, so you can check that out if you're interested in that variation. Obviously the back squat, the barbell back squat, there's millions of videos of how to do that, so I'm not going to go over how to do it, and I'm not very good at it anyways. I actually don't barbell back squat at all. Something to keep your eye out on as well when squatting comes to, there's a safety bar squat. And this allows you to put the bar on your back, but because of the way the weight ends up sitting, it's much more, the weight isn't so far behind you, it's more like in your midline, right? And that kind of makes it better, easier to squat for people that just don't have the right form. I got this bar here, it's great. I use it, it makes my form look a lot better. Yeah, it's not the ultimate, expression of a squat, barbell squat, but for what my goals are, I don't need to barbell back squat. So if I'm not perfect at it or I don't do it all the time, as long as I'm getting that movement pattern in, that's the goal, right? So whether it's a goblet squat, safety bar squat, split squat, a squat to a box, a squat to a bench, a bodyweight squat, a squat with a band, it doesn't really matter, right? And the other thing I'll throw in there is a lot of people have mobility issues in their ankles that causes their form to look a little bit bad, not so good, I should say. One thing you can do is to raise your heels, and that can help with those mobility limitations. Obviously, you want to work towards improving your mobility so you don't have those limitations anymore, but in the meantime, if it makes things look better, raising your heels can be a good thing. You can do that by just putting some plates underneath your heels while you squat. Or like what I have here is a slant board. You can buy these online, you can buy them on Amazon, they're pretty cheap. And so by doing this, I actually like to use this as something recent that I've just started incorporating in my squatting, and I really like the way it feels when I squat. I've been squatting in these few 5 fingers shoes with no heel raise at all, very flat for years and years and years, and I just started doing this and I really like the way it feels. So it just kind of raises your heels up a little bit, and I don't have a lot of ankle mobility limitations, but I have some, and it does make me feel, it does just feel better. It just feels better like this for me. I can't describe how or why, but it's something I've been playing around with, and it seems to work really well. So that's the squat in a very short period of time. I gave you some examples of things you can do, and try them out. Try different variations out. Don't be embarrassed if you have to start by squatting to a box. That's okay. A lot of people do. I have a lot of clients still squat to a box. And actually, if you look at some of the best squatters in the world, they incorporate box squats into their squatting routine all the time. And they can squat hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of pounds, more than I will be able to ever squat in my entire life. So don't be embarrassed by it. That's just where you're at, and work towards a bodyweight squat or a goblet squat without the box, or try out some front squats, or try out some split squats, or whatever, and move from different variation to variation. Give a barbell back squat a try, see how that feels, right? See if you can find one of these safety bar squats at the gym you're at. Lots of gyms have them now, and try that out, right? So just play around with it, find something that feels good, or a number of different variations that feel good, and rotate between those and incorporate that into your exercise routine. And that's the first movement we're going to talk about. And as always, appreciate you watching the video. And if you have any questions or comments or things that I might have left out or whatever you want to see other variations, please leave me a comment, direct message me or whatever. I'll help you out. I'm happy to help. And as always, you can get these videos delivered directly to your inbox by signing up for my newsletter. If you go to rjbhealth.coach, click the newsletter link at the top, enter your email address, and I'll email you all that stuff, plus all the other fun content that I put out. And then if you're interested in one-on-one coaching, please let me know. You can go to my website, again, rjbhealth.coach, click the schedule discovery call button at the top on the homepage, and fill out the form, and I'll get back to you and we can talk about doing some coaching. So until next week, have a good weekend.